In 1962, the most glamorous woman in Hollywood stood under the spotlight at Madison Square Garden and sang Happy Birthday, Mr. President, in a voice that dripped with seduction. John F. Kennedy smiled. The crowd roared. But behind the glitz, there were whispers of a dangerous affair. One was the President of the United States, the other the most desired movie star over time. Their secret connection became a symbol of passion, scandal, and ultimately, tragedy. This is the untold story of John F. Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe, affairs, power, and tragedy. When John F. Kennedy was elected in 1960, America entered what the press dubbed the Camelot era. He was young, handsome, charismatic. The nation's first television-age president. At his side, First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, elegant and sophisticated, crafted an image of grace and nobility. The White House glowed with energy, culture, and the promise of a new frontier. But behind the polished facade, Kennedy had long carried a reputation as a womanizer. Old friends whispered about endless affairs. Former girlfriends included Hollywood actresses, socialites, even White House staff. For Kennedy, charm was a weapon, and no one was immune. By the early 1960s, Marilyn Monroe was at the peak of her fame. Born Norma Jean Mortensen in 1926, she rose from foster homes and hardship to become the silver screen's ultimate sex symbol. Her films Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Some Like It Hot, The 7-Year Itch cemented her image as the blonde bombshell. She embodied allure, vulnerability, and tragedy all at once. But off-screen, Monroe battled insecurities, failed marriages, and dependence on sleeping pills. Hollywood adored her, but she longed for something deeper: recognition, love, and stability. And then came John F. Kennedy. Accounts differ on exactly how Kennedy and Monroe met. Some say it was at a Hollywood party in the early 1950s. Others place their first meeting at a dinner hosted by actor Peter Law, Kennedy's brother-in-law. What is clear is that by the early 1960s, they were intimately connected. Kennedy, already involved in multiple affairs, was captivated by Monroe's beauty and vulnerability. Monroe, craving affection and power, was drawn to the president's charm. Their alleged encounters were shrouded in secrecy, guarded by Secret Service agents, facilitated by Kennedy's inner circle, and whispered about in elite social circles. But secrecy couldn't last forever. May 19, 1962. Madison Square Garden, New York City. A gala celebrating JFK's 45th birthday. Marilyn Monroe appeared on stage, wearing a skin-tight, flesh-colored gown, glittering with over 2,500 crystals. She sang Happy Birthday, Mr. President, in a sultry, breathless tone. The performance stunned the audience and left little doubt about her connection with Kennedy. The gown, the voice, the intimacy of the moment, it was more than just entertainment. It was a declaration. Afterward, Monroe was photographed with both John and Robert Kennedy. To the world, it looked like glamorous fun. To insiders, it was dangerous exposure. Jacqueline Kennedy, always graceful in public, was not blind to her husband's affairs. But Marilyn Monroe was different. She wasn't just another fling. She was the most famous woman in America. Rumors circulated that Monroe had called the White House, spoken directly with JFK, even confided in friends that she dreamed of becoming First Lady. For Jackie, it was humiliation. For Kennedy's advisors, it was a crisis waiting to explode. The scandal deepened with whispers that Robert F. Kennedy, JFK's brother and Attorney General, was also involved with Monroe. Did Monroe have affairs with both brothers? Some historians insist yes. Others argue the evidence is circumstantial. But FBI files and declassified documents confirm that J. Edgar Hoover's bureau kept a close watch on her, fearing she was a security risk. Monroe's diary allegedly contained notes about political conversations with the Kennedys. From nuclear weapons to Cuba. If true, it meant a Hollywood actress, vulnerable and unstable, held state secrets. That was more than gossip. It was a national security threat. By 1962, Monroe's life was unraveling. Her marriage to playwright Arthur Miller had ended. Her behavior on film sets became erratic. She was fired from Something Esigoto Hiba. She relied heavily on barbiturates and alcohol to sleep. Her mental health fragile. Friends said she was increasingly paranoid, convinced the Kennedys were distancing themselves, abandoning her. And then came August 5, 1962. At age 36, Marilyn Monroe was found dead in her Los Angeles home. Official cause: acute barbiturate poisoning. The coroner ruled it probable suicide. But suspicions erupted immediately. Was it an accident? A cry for help? Or something darker? Conspiracy theories exploded. Some claimed she was silenced because she knew too much about the Kennedys. Others said mafia connections were involved. A few argued it was simply despair, compounded by drugs and loneliness. The truth remains clouded in mystery. But one fact was undeniable: the Kennedy connection cast a long shadow over her death. In the immediate aftermath, the Kennedy family worked to distance themselves. No public statement about Marilyn Monroe was ever issued by the White House. Her name vanished from official conversation. Behind closed doors, advisors worried. If Monroe's diaries, phone records, or letters surfaced, the fallout could be catastrophic. But fate intervened. A year later, JFK himself was assassinated in Dallas. The alleged affair with Marilyn faded into the background of an even greater tragedy. The story of John F. Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe remains one of history's most tantalizing. Was it a passionate love affair, a brief fling, or something in between? Did Monroe truly believe she could be with JFK? Did their connection play a role in her death? More than 6 decades later, the details remain contested. But the imagery, Monroe's sultry voice, singing happy birthday, Kennedy's dazzling smile, the aura of secrecy lives on. For Marilyn, the affair symbolizes the vulnerability behind the glamour. For Kennedy, it underscores the recklessness that haunted his private life. Together, their story embodies the collision of Hollywood and Washington, desire and duty, love and tragedy. A president whose life ended in an assassin's bullet. A starlet whose life ended in a lonely bedroom. Two icons, forever bound in whispers of passion and scandal. Theirs was not just an affair. It was a story of power, secrecy, and the heavy cost of living in the spotlight. Because when power and desire meet under the brightest lights, the shadows they cast can last forever.